I know you said you are passionate about the GAA from the age of 10.
Yeah.
But you were very involved in the removal of the ban. Talk to me about the ban.
Well, if you growing up in Kerry, the ban didn't exist.
Didn't exist
For all practical purposes.
because it was the only sport in Kerry.
The only sport in
Yes.
Kerry, you see. And there were a few fanatics like the late John George Sheehy, you know that. And you daren't if you had any reservations in Kerry when I was up there, you kept them to yourself.
Yes.
But as in the civil service, I mean, like I worked with people who were GA people, but who found the ban an embarrassment.
Yes.
Many of them, prominent GA people. Others, like Dublin, you see. Dublin wasn't a GA city traditionally. Because the final of soccer cups in Dalymount on St. Patrick's Day, they attracted about between 35 and 40,000. Now the GA started. You see, the ban became a GA topic after the War of Independence.
Mm.
And it was unpopular in Dublin. So the GA decided, you see, the GA was a winter game by tradition. And the GA started the Railway Cups, played in the springtime, and they were anti-soccer. And then they introduced the Railway Cup convention in 1927. And that was anti foreign games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like foreign games became a political rag in the early days of this age. But the GA then introduced the Railway Cups, the French in 1927. And the first final Railway Cups attracted 10,000. But then it started to grow. And eventually, Railway Cup finals in St. Patrick's Day, they attracted up to 40,000, 50,000. So the soccer people anyway reacted sensibly. They deferred the final soccer to the one early late in May to avoid conflict with the GA. But I mean, there was a distinct conflict from the fanatics in the GA. Now, when the war broke out, when I was a very young civil servant, and I was in the volunteers. They were introduced by Defilera, the anti-GA, and I found myself in the army with the soccer people. They were as good Irishmen as I was.
And did that nearly surprise you?
I suppose it did.
Yes.
I suppose it did. But time went on anyway, and I remember when I went public for the first time. I mean, I was hoping that a prominent GA player winning all Ireland medals. I was hoping that one of them would, but they weren't. They were critical, but they were keeping their heads down.
Sure. Because it was a big thing for someone very involved in the GAA to say this is wrong.
It was.
Mm.
It was. So I decided anyway, and I remember I went down to the National Library, and for I suppose part of a winter to go back from the foundation of the state, to the very foundation, and to follow this down the years. And as a matter of fact, for years there was a contention in the GA about Michael Cusick. See, he wrote this letter, apparently, that led to the foundation of the GA back in the 18. But nobody could, it was believed that he was a very contentious fellow. And the early newspapers would be given a wide berth.
Mm-hmm.
But he got this paper anyway. And I happened to be down National Library one night and going through newspapers in the early days of the century. And I found myself reading this letter. I went, God, this is very... I found I was reading Michael Cusick's last letter. I forgot everything else that night. I certainly committed it to paper.
Mm.
And I rang Marcus de Book. He was a barrister. He was writing a history of the GA. And I told him. But he used it, but he didn't mention Tom Woulfe, which I didn't mind.
But tell me, what was the argument? Where was the argument coming from within the GAA for the ban? Was it linked directly back to Cusack, and do you think they were wrong?
They were committed. Those in favour of the ban, they were committed to the ban.
Yes, but why? Where had it originated?
It originated, I think, the anti-treaty Civil War element were very GA, but very committed to it.
Mm. So it became
And
identified with Irishness. Yeah.
It was better about national faith. National faith, the ban.
Yeah. And you took this for granted until you actually met guys who played soccer and realised they were as good nationalists as you were.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, I realised that in my short time in the army.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
There was no soccer in the army in those days. And I realised that they were as good as the Irishmen as I was.
So what did you do? You started to agitate, to speak up?
No, I did my homework. I went down to National Library and I spent hours and hours there, going back on the history of the GA.
And what were you looking for? I know you said you found the Cusack letter, but what were you looking for to help your argument down there?
Well, I was looking for a balanced view on the, simple as that.
What did you find?
And I found anyway, I wrote a thesis, which amounted to about, I suppose, 7,000 words. And I found that I was living that I have been living in a fool's paradise.
In what way? What do you mean by that?
That I've been taken for, I have been assumed that those who believed in the ban were right. And they weren't. There was another side, and there were good men at the other side. I remember, and I think about 7,000 words, and I sent a copy to the three main newspapers: the Irish Times, Irish Press. The Irish Times only published it, and they published verbatim, and they included in my thesis. I'd included a letter written by Archbishop Coke, demolishing the idea that there was only one view.
So what you were setting out to do was to show that the founders of the GAA and real original GAA people would not have supported the ban as it emerged.
No.
That's what you were doing in your research.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's definitely
Yeah.
right.
So what was the effect of your Irish Times publication on the GAA? Did it have any?
Oh, I think it had. It was the first time that I suppose the pros and cons of the GAA. It was the first time, and he was a guy who'd been wedded to the GAA, you know. And I remember the late Paddy Smith, God be good, and he was a senior Fianna Fáil TD. And I knew Paddy Smith. I assumed that he knew me because as Prime Secretary of the Republic, because as Prime Secretary, I was very often in Leicester House. So all this, everyone know. But I didn't know that he knew me as Tom Woulfe. But he did, and he stopped me, and he congratulated me. And he said, you see, they had suspended Douglas Hyde, the founder. And he said, every time I think of what they did to Douglas Hyde, it makes me angry. And you congratulate me. This is my very early days now as a public figure.
How was your relationship within the GAA all that time? Because you were still very active as a club member and a committee man, weren't you?
Oh, what?
So did it affect that a lot?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people like to respect me for having the guts to speak, you know. Certainly, like, but there was an awful lot of intimidation, of course, about it. But I mean, I see the ban. When the ban went in 1771, see, this will interest you. I hadn't been attending Congress because my wife wasn't well. And Meath had a motion before Congress calling for a referendum on the ban. And it called for a club referendum. And it was passed in Congress without a vote. I wasn't present. Now, I mean, I knew that if I had been sponsoring it for Dublin, it would have been shut down when I was suspect. I wasn't a true GE, but this got through anyway. And fortunately, one of my colleagues, and one of the fellows who was supporting me, the late Eamon Monkey, he went to All Ireland with Mayo. Monkey was in holidays in Galway, and he dropped into Congress when that motion was being debated, and it was passed through without a murmur. And none of the papers reported it. And Margie came back anyway to me, and he told me. No, Margie was writing a column for the Sunday Press in those days, every week. So we decided anyway that we'd lie low until the time for the club general meetings, in October, November. And we did that. And Margie published it in his article in the Sunday Press. And that was October, say, and it was the club meetings would be taking place October, November. So anyhow, I decided that I would do a short letter to every paper throughout the length and breadth of Ireland on what happened. And they said, I was addressing this to club secretaries, and I said, at long last you're being required by Central Council to hold a meeting with the club and to take a decision on the ban. And I remember I read the Irish Independent and the Sunday Independent were all on my side. I rang my friend in the and I told him, this is on the Thursday. Now I sent the letter to all the secretaries on the Monday, and I said, I asked them to publish this on their weekly issue at the end of the week. So I told him, and he said, I'd love to get a copy. So I got on my bicycle yesterday, and I was at his side in 10 minutes, and the Sunday Independent published it. I reckon that letter was published about 750,000 times that weekend. And it was mainly responsible, in my view, when it came to the early spring. It emerged that 30 county conventions had voted against the ban. Only two.
Yes, had voted to hold on to it.
Yeah. So Pat Fanning was the president, and he was 100% pro-ban.
Pro-ban?
Oh, pro-ban, yes. And he decided that there was no point in having a debate at Congress. The GA had already taken it right out of their hands. The GA general had decided the ban should go.
So he gave up?
He gave up.
Basically. Yeah.
But
so what you're saying is the previous year's Congress, the motion to request every club to debate it, passed without comment. And what you really did at that stage was make sure that when the time came they did discuss it.
Exactly.
And you created an almost a dead issue then, because at ground roots level, the days were gone. At ground roots level, nobody wanted to know.
But I took it, as I say, I had the conversation with Margaret in April.
Yes.
And we decided that he should hold it.
You planned it. Yeah. Did you have a sense that around the country and in the clubs, people just did not want it anymore?
I did.
So you weren't that surprised
that
30 counties went?
No, I wasn't. No, because even Paddy Dolly thought less than the analysis of previous. By the way, the ban could only be built once every 3 years. And we had been getting going in support. But at Congress, I wasn't surprised. I mean, people who'd been keeping clear of me at Concord School, they were congratulated.
Yes.
But oddly enough, in Fanning promised, he said, no, the bad van is gone. And I was a Dublin delegate, and I was in the front seat, and I rose to applaud it automatically. And the late Paddy Purcell, he said, the Irish Press Sky, and he was in the gallery, and many times he said, you led, you brought Congress to its feet.
Sure. So that was 1971.
Yeah, 71.
When was that thesis
Pardon?
published in the Times? How much before 1971 had your thesis been published in the Times?
Oh, my thesis was published in the Times 10 years earlier.
So it was a 10-year battle.
Oh yes, it was. It was a 12 years battle.
12-year battle,
From
the research.
From 79 to
91.
91, yeah.